Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and all the cards from the latest mini-set Maw and Disordered have been revealed, and well, it's time to do what we like to do on this channel: put them in a tier list, rate them, be horribly wrong, and come back later and laugh at how, well, absolutely terrible I am at predicting these things. And if you want a chance to, I don't know, get these cards golden and all of that, we still have our giveaway going on for 4 golden mini-sets out of my pocket. All you have to go and do is like the video. This is the thumbnail, the video in the description below. Like and comment on it, subscribe to the channel as we celebrate 58,000 subscribers on our road to 60K. New giveaway at every 1,000 subs, so hit that sub button, make me go broke. Winners will be announced on Wednesday, so you got a couple more days here to enter the giveaway. So starting off, let's start ranking these cards. By the way, they are ranked from S through F, S being like God tier, auto include, and F being kind of just, you know, a pile of crap. And this will be rated more on standard, not so much wild, but I will mention wild implications here or there. So we have Afterlife Attendant, 3-mana 3/4 neutral. Your infused cards also infuse while in your deck, so typically an infused card, you know, friendly minion dies, it has to be in your hand. That infused card needs to be in your hand. This kind of gets around that, but you're playing the 3-mana 3/4, you're having to kill stuff off just to infuse a card in your deck. I can't see that being worth pretty much being run in any deck outside of very fringe situations, so I gotta give it a C. We have All Fel Breaks Loose. Speaking of infused cards, 5-mana Fel spell for Demon Hunter. Summon a friendly demon that died this game. If you infuse it with 3 demons, friendly demons die while you're holding this, or you have that neutral going and all of that. You summon 3 instead. Really good with like an Illidari Inquisitor. Maybe you resurrect the Colossal minion and get the stalks back. Overall, it's very slow. It takes a long time to get going, and if it's not infused, pretty darn bad. It can only get infused by demons, and well, you've got to run big demons for this to be worth it, so the whole process is very awkward, very slow. I don't see it being worth the payoff of even having a Jace recasting it. Again, I'm gonna go for a C on this one. Next, we have Arson Accusation, a 2-mana fire spell for Warlock. Choose a minion destroyed after a hero takes damage, so you can just target a minion, whatever you want. If it hits you or anything hits you, it'll die. If you life tap, it'll die. You play Raise Dead and Wild, it will die. It's pretty cheap, efficient removal, and some decks struggle with that. It's just a good, flexible card. It's not that ridiculous, especially with Warlock that doesn't have the best hard removal in the world, instead of like a Siphon Soul. I'm gonna go with a B. I see it seeing regular play, but not blowing people away. Next, we have the Attorney at Law, the Druid common that has Choose One. It's a 2-mana 1/3 with Choose One. It either silences a minion, which we know is good, or give a minion immune this turn. I still haven't really figured out what the hell you want to give immune to. Just having a flexible silence and I guess a pseudo divine shield is pretty darn good in those token based decks. I think it's a good catch-all card that could go in multiple decks. I think it'll see regular play. We have Call to the Stand, a warrior card, 1-mana spell. Your opponent summons a random minion from their hand. It's very reminiscent of Dirty Rat, which would pull a minion from your opponent's hand. You get a 2/6 taunt, which a lot of the time was better. Plus you could couple it with a brand. You can't really double up on this effect, but warrior, you know, has great removal. Whatever they pull out of your hand, they're going to be able to remove and deal with, and it can kill Athreus, a Theotar. Very important card. It's definitely a great tool for Control Warrior. It's just like, is Control Warrior viable? It still really isn't. I think it's a good card, but I don't think it's going to sneak in to the meta quite yet. I'll give it a B. I think it sees play, but if Control Warrior is doing a lot better, I would put it much higher than this. We have Class Action Lawyer, a new pure Paladin card, 2-mana 2/3. Battle Cry. If your deck is no neutral card, set of minions cast to 1/1. It's like Aldor Peacekeeper, but better for 1 mana cheaper. Downside is you have to play a pure deck, but I think Paladin got such a huge boost with 1 card in the mini set that a card like this, which is an incredible payoff, a cheap, flexible payoff for pure Paladin, that I'm going to give it an A. I think this card will see a lot of play, and I think Paladin is going to be picking up in popularity right as the mini set comes out. We have Clear Conscience, 3-mana holy spell for Priest. Give a friendly minion +2/+3, and only you can target this with spells and hero powers. It's a decent buff, and then your opponent basically cannot target your minion with spells or hero powers, making their boon turn even crazier. The downside of the card is it's 3 mana, so even if you have a Radiant Elemental up or 2 of them, you still have to spend mana. Forbid you have to spend mana, but I think it's a big deal. I don't know if you really need this effect. I think it's decent. I just don't think it's going to slot in to many decks other than maybe that Miracle Boon Priest, but I feel like even there, it might just be too expensive. I'm giving it a high C. I don't think it becomes a meta player. Next, we have the card that I feel like is going to be ridiculous and wild, Contract Conjurer, the 6-mana 6/6 mage minion that costs 3 less for each secret you control. So with 2 secrets up, with only 2, this costs 0 mana. 0 mana 6/6, and in standard, not nearly as much. It's pretty easy to get 1 secret up, maybe 2, but then your opponent can proc that secret, and plus Secret Mage has not been a thing in standard. However, they're getting 2 incredible cards this mini set, so maybe it's just enough to put over the top. If this was a wild ranking, I'd probably give it an S. For standard, I'm gonna give it a high B. I'm not sold on Secret Mage making the cut, even with a broken card like this. We have the Hunter Legendary Defense Attorney Nathanos, 6-mana 5/4 Battlecry. Discover a friendly Death Rattle minion that died this game. Trigger and gain its Death Rattle. There's no really prevalent Death Rattle deck right now in standard. You have Big Beast Hunter, which does run Death Rattles like Rat King, has like the Hydrolodon heads in Mountain Bear, but overall it's going to be very slow and awkward in those decks, but might be worth running. And I don't know if it'll spawn a whole Death Rattle archetype or Death Rattle deck that's more competitive like the Monstrous Parrot, but I will give it a B. I think maybe it is that 40th card in that Big Beast Hunter because the value is there. Might just be worth running this card just for that extra value and greed in certain matchups. We have the Druid spell Due Process, nature spell, 2 mana. For the rest of the game, players draw an extra card at the start of their turn. Important to note, when you play this, your opponent's going to get the first draw no matter what. I feel like this would go into a mill strategy more than aggro because giving your opponent that card is pretty much more detrimental to you than it will be an asset to yourself, especially when you have cards like Composting in standard that are great that people don't even run because the card draw and some of those decks is just not worth it. I feel like Due Process is just not a very good card, and Mill Druid does not really have any support going on. I'm gonna give it an F. I think this is unplayable and is a card you will not see on ladder. We'll see if I'm terribly wrong and aggro decks actually kick ass with it. We have the Framester, the 3-mana 3/3 Shaman minion Battlecry. Shuffle 3 frame cards into the opponent's deck when drawn, the overload for 2. 0 mana card that casts when drawn, overloads for 2. So if it's on your turn, you draw it, you'll have 2 less mana crystals to work with the next turn. So it's a delayed effect on a delayed effect because you don't know when you're going to draw it. I feel like this is more of a wild card, shutting off Highlander strategies in particular. Pretty nice for Shaman with a card like this, but other than that, standard, I just cannot imagine running a possible 3-mana 3/3 do absolutely nothing is pretty much ever worth it. And even like the payoff of making your opponent overloaded doesn't feel worth running the card. It's a cool little troll card, but again, I'm gonna give it an F in standard. I'd give it like a C or a B in wild due to the Reno implications, but overall, I just don't see running this card in standard. We have the Warlock's Shadow Spell, Hobbyist Corpses, 3-mana spell that discovers a friendly minion to resurrect and give it rush. It dies at the end of turn. You're looking at like Death Rattles you really want to bring back with this. And you know, you have the Mine, you have the Big Owl, but overall, it just seems like a very awkward card. Really just weird, because yeah, it's dying at the end of the turn no matter what. So you really got to get some kind of value from it and have a very specific payoff. And it's a friendly minion. It could be anything that's died. So you want to run a particular subset of minions, and I just don't see an Owl deck or a Mine deck making much sense of this all. It's another F card for me. I just do not see how this card sees play. We have the Imposter, a 2-mana 1/1 demon Battlecry. Choose a friendly imp, transform into a copy of it. It's pretty good if you buffed up an imp with like a location, stuff like that, a Rafam, a Shady Bartender, a cheap little copy effect, but I feel like it's awkward, it's clunky, it's a card that just sits dead in your hand unless you're in a particular situation. It's probably not worth it. It's not terrible, I just don't see it being competitive, so I'm gonna give it a high C. We have the Druid Hardish removal, Incarceration, 3-mana spell, choose a minion, it goes dormant for 3 turns. We saw this effect on Maiev back in the day. It's got 1 more step on dormant, no body or anything, but overall it might see a tiny bit of play in specific niche matchups. Certainly a valid created by. I will give it a low B. I think it could pop up in certain ramp lists. We have the Incriminating Psychic, the 4-mana 2/6 Priest Dragon, taunt Death Rattle, copy a random card from your opponent's hand. So it's got Death Rattle synergy with like Amulet and Zarella. It's value, it's a taunt. It's just a solid card. It's a dragon and all that. I think this sees play in like Thief Priest. It could be a Quest Priest card as your 4-drop instead of like that Light Maw that just rarely goes off. I think it's a really good card for Priest. I'm gonna give it an A. I think this pops up in multiple multiple archetypes. Next, we have Jury Duty, the 3-mana Paladin spell, some dude support for, you know, the whole dude Paladin thing that's been struggling. Summon 2 Silverhand recruits, give your Silverhand recruits +1/+1, so it's a 3-mana 4/4, and any other recruits on the board get buffed up. I don't think Dude Paladin's put over the top. This is really the only major support it's got. It's okay. It's not bad, but I just got to give it a high C because I don't think that deck is still going to be a meta player, at least not this expansion. We have the new Mage spell, Life Sentence, 4 mana, remove a minion from the game. Basically, it deletes it from the game. It can't be resurrected. Its death rattle is gone. It didn't happen, basically. It's kind of like the amazing Reno's Poof, and that's a pretty good removal spell. I don't know what deck would utilize this. Probably more of a created by thing or something cast by a rune, you know, the puzzle box card. I don't know if it sees much play, but I'll give it a very low B. We have Maw Sworn Bailiff, 5-mana 4/4 warrior minion taunt battlecry if you have 4 or more armor. Gain +4/+4. It's a 5-mana 8/8 taunt. That's good and all if you have the condition applied, but what deck is playing this? What is it really accomplishing? It feels like a pack filler from a couple years ago, and as a result, I'm gonna give it an F. I just cannot see a warrior deck running this. We have a new Hunter Secret Motion Denied, 2-mana secret after your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, deal 6 damage to enemy hero. This is insane damage. You also force your opponent to only play 2 cards if they don't want to activate this, similar to Rat Trap. And even the upgraded version from Tavish is 9 damage, which is just like a third of your health for 2 mana. Unless you're a Redithal deck, then it's like almost a quarter. Regardless, I think this card pops up in decks. I think it's actually pretty darn good. I will give it an A. The Rogue removal spell, Murder Accusation. You choose a minion, destroy it after another enemy minion dies. So you could put it on your own death rattle, kill an enemy minion, and then your minion dies, or you can just kill one of their minions. Rogue just has efficient removal. They just have great tempo tools. I feel like they're not going to bother with a janky ass removal card that requires multiple trades, and I just don't know what this is going into. I don't think it's terrible. I feel like some death rattle decks, for the reason I mentioned, actually could utilize it, but overall I'm going to give it a pretty low C. Don't think it's going to see much play. Next we have the Mage Secret Objection. Secret, when you or your opponent plays a minion, counter it. So instead of, you know, counter spell, it's counter a minion. And we've seen this on like Okani, which you could choose to either counter a spell or counter a minion. And while the minion's battle cry doesn't go off, its mana is consumed. It just did not happen, and this is a very good secret. I think it's even better in Wild, but in Standard it's really solid. I just don't know if you're hard running it, right? It's like the other secret cards, so I'm gonna put it as a B, but overall it's like an A or S style card if the deck is actually good. Next we have the Paladin spell. It's 2 mana, Order in the Court. Reorder your deck from highest cost to lowest cost. Draw a card. So 2 mana draw a card, not phenomenal, but when that card is Cariel, or you're basically guaranteeing that you're gonna draw Cariel in a draw or 2, that to me makes this an S tier card. This is a card that I feel like will make people play Paladin a lot day 1 when the mini set launches. Is it going to be enough to elevate Paladin back to a good playable level? I don't know, but having a tutor where you go Cariel into your Leviathan, into your Countess, into all these powerful cards is really good. It can bury your answers in the bottom of your deck, your cheaper answers, but overall we all know how insane the effect of just getting Cariel is, and there's also other implications of other combos you could set up of like drawing a Deathrius, drawing a Jailer, who knows. The possibilities are endless for this card, and I've got to give it an S. We have a new Rogue Secret, Perjury. Secret, when your turn starts, discover and cast a secret from another class. So it's 2 mana, do nothing, to eventually do something that might suck or might be okay. This card's really bad. I think it's one of the worst secrets. When I first reviewed it, I try to be nice to it. I just don't know how 2 mana do nothing is good. I know it's supposed to help set up Hulkius, but Hulkius sucks as well. I'm giving this straight an F. I just cannot imagine this is the card to make Secret Rogue work. We have the Demon Hunter Legendary Prosecutor Meltranix, 4 mana 2/6 Demon Battlecry. Your opponent can only play their left and rightmost cards on their next turn. This is a great disruption card. It's pretty decently statted. It's a demon. It's just really good. It's super annoying for your opponent if their good answers or their tempo cards or whatever are not the 2 cards on the left and right. They're kind of screwed, and well, that could be devastating. I think this is an S tier legendary that will go into pretty much every Demon Hunter archetype out there, outside of maybe like the Hand Vomit Demon Hunter deck, and even that might still run it. We have the Scribbling Stenographer, 6 mana 4/4 rush. It costs 1 less for each card you play this turn. It's a rogue card. Pretty good in the Miracle decks. It's bounce while upon null. Takes a while to get going. Obviously you have to play 6 cards for it to be 0. Not that hard for rogue, but typically it doesn't happen to like turns 3, 4, 5, I guess. Probably more like turns 3 and 4 these days, but we saw like a 4 mana 3/3 version of this back in the day that saw very little play. This is 2 more mana than that, but it does have rush. I think it could slot into that deck, but I'm not super sold on it. I will give it a B. I don't think it's terrible by any means, but thankfully it shouldn't be breaking that deck even more. We have Shadehound, which is a 5 mana 6/5 beast for Hunter. Whenever this attacks, give your other beast +2/+2, but if it's been infused by 3 other beasts, it gains rush. Decent in a beast-based deck. It's gotta be a very consistently wide beast-based deck, which just doesn't really exist that well in standard. You do have Big Beast Hunter, which does have its Wild Siege that can get buffed, but overall, it's not consistent enough to hit that. Plus, if they're dormant, I don't even think they get the buff from this, but it's not bad. I'm gonna give it a low B. It could surprise me. It's premium stats with an incredible upside if it goes off. It's just how reliably is that going to go off? We have the Sightless Magistrate, 4 mana 5/4 minion for Demon Hunter Battlecry. Both players draw until they have 5 cards. So you playing your Vomit Demon Hunter deck, you play this, you can draw 5 cards for 4 mana, and if your opponent's holding 5, they get nothing. So it all depends on the meta. It also depends on how that deck is working, but it's a really strong card. I'm not sold on giving it S because it only really goes into one deck, but it's really powerful, and it's a card that I feel like is going to drive a lot of players insane. We have the Soul Seeker, 5 mana 3/3 neutral minion Battlecry. Swap this with a random minion from your opponent's deck. The ultimate big priest counter in wild, but overall this card's not gonna be reliable enough and not consistent enough to be like hitting a key card from your opponent. Unlike a Mutinous, you can time, and this could, hell, it could just backfire on you and just get like a 1/1 for 5 mana. That's just awful. It could be just a really bad turn for you. I think it's a really very fringe meta-dependent tech card, and as a result, I gotta give it a C. We have the neutral legendary here, Sylvanas the Accused, Battlecry, destroy an enemy, not bad. Infuse 7, take control of it instead. It's a 6 mana 5/5, so not amazing stats. This one has immediate board presence, unlike the OG Sylvanas, which had a death rattle taking our enemy minion. This card's really good. It's a 6 mana assassinate on a stick, not bad. Any class can use it, so a class like Druid, which struggles with hard removal, will like a card like this, and stealing it, say like a Mountain Bear, can be outright game winning. This is a great card that I feel like will slot into multiple archetypes. It's just like what will go with it. Could be a Big Beast Hunter, could definitely see that, a Ramp Druid, maybe like a Skeleton Mage. There are tons of decks that could use it. I think it's really good. I'm gonna give it an S. I think this goes into a ton of different decks, even if the Effuse is rather slow. Next, we have the other neutral legendary, the Jailer. This is like the craziest card of the whole set. 10 mana 10/10 Battlecry, destroy your deck. For the rest of the game, your minions are immune. I've heard so many different theory crafts, so many different theories on how to make this card good. It's so crazy. It's gonna break the game. It's so awkward. It's 10 mana, do nothing. It does become immune itself in your board if you have one, but it deletes your deck. You're taking fatigue right away. You might want to offset that with like a Kazakhstan. Like, it is such an awkward, crazy, ridiculous win condition that I think might be applicable in Wild, but in Standard, I gotta give it a low B. I feel like it's so fringe for this to actually work, but if someone figures it out, it's gonna be game breaking, that's for sure. We have the Priest Shadow Spell, Theft Accusation. Choose a minion, destroy it after you play a card copy from the opponent. Really good and Wild in like the Shadow Renethal Priest that runs thief cards and can only run shadow spells. In Standard, not as much. You already have the Light It Burns Holy Spell, works pretty well, but it's some redundancy and maybe it's just a little bit better within that. But overall, that's usually just killing whatever it needs to kill. I do think it sees play in those Thief Priest decks. I don't think it's amazing. I think it's solid. I'll give it a B. We have Tight-Lipped Witness, 3 mana 2/5, secrets can't be revealed. Secret tech cards have always sucked. They've been very fringe. Eater of Secrets saw fringe play. And this doesn't even delete the secrets. It just can't be revealed. I'll give it a C. I'll be shocked if it sees play, but hey, you can counter Ice Block with yet another card. We have Torghast Custodian, 8 mana 6/10 Battlecry. For each enemy minion, randomly gain Rush, Divine Shield, or Wind Fury. Really big body. It's Divine Shield, Rush, Wind Fury is really good on 3 minions, but at the end of the day, it's an arena card. I don't see this seeing ladder play. I'll give it an F. If it did have Lifesteal though, that would be a whole different story. category. We have Totemic Evidence. Choose a basic totem and summon it. Infuse 3 totems. You summon all 4 instead. Bunch of stats for 1 mana. And even at 1 mana just to get a totem can be okay. Totem Shaman's pretty irrelevant, but this card's just nutty. It's just so much value for 1 mana. I'll give it a B. Put it with that secret package that's also nutty, just because the rest of the deck just really isn't there yet. And then lastly, we have the Weapons Expert. Warrior kind of sucks right now, but now they get a Weapons Expert of a 3 mana 3/2 battle cry. If you have a weapon equipped, you give it +1/+1. Otherwise, draw a weapon. You get an Imbued Axe. That's really good. Outrider's Axe. That's really good. It's a really good card. I don't think it's enough to save Warrior, but very solid. I'm going to actually give it a low S. This is going to go into a lot of different Warrior decks. I just don't know if it's quite enough to elevate Warrior to that playable status. So there you go. Ton of mediocre cards, a lot of good stuff, and of course, a lot of garbage. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.